Hello guys, welcome back to Off the Pitch. And today I'm joined by Mr. John Helm, a voice that has been around for such a long time that it has become a household voice for football. The Football World Cup commentary is almost incomplete. He is recommended as the god of commentary by many, and it is a sort of given that he needs absolutely no introduction to the footballing world. I would like to welcome Mr. John Helm. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you. That's a very kind introduction. I'm delighted to be on the pitch, off the pitch.
We are also delighted to have you here, sir. You have been around this industry literally forever, and it's been a pleasure listening to your voice for such a long amount of time here in India, especially. So, could you talk us through your early days in broadcasting? How did you enter this field?
Yeah, well, you refer there to the longevity of my career, really. As you say, I seem to have been around forever. For me, it's gone by in a flash because I feel I'm probably the luckiest man on earth. I love sport. I always have done from being a little boy, dribbling a tennis ball to school and playing cricket for my local club. I'm now 78 years of age. I still play golf. I'm the president of the local cricket club. I still go to as many football matches as possible. And if you think of a dream and you wanted to travel the world and watch sport and talk about it and see the best players in every sport, cricket, football, golf, athletics, whatever, and I've achieved that. And yet I'm still waking up every morning looking forward to the next great event. That has to be one of the greatest lives ever.
Exactly. I mean, it's such a great voice to hear because we have been hearing this for a long time now, and you still look fresh. You look like you're raring to go every day. Every time we listen to your commentary, that excitement, that buzz, that knowledge which we get from you about football, it's absolutely incredible. And talking about your early days, how did you enter this field, and how did you go ahead with it and reach here today?
Absolutely. Well, I started in 1959. I can remember the day, August the 17th. And I covered not just sport, I covered the local council meetings and the local court cases. But then as time has evolved, I did 7 years on a weekly newspaper before I even moved on to the Yorkshire Post, which is a famous newspaper here in England. And I had 4 years there. And I got my break into sport in 1970 when I was approached by the BBC to become the sports editor of Radio Leeds. And I couldn't believe that this little lad from Baildon, that's my village, was being approached by the British Broadcasting Corporation to work for them. I'd grown up idolising commentators, maybe rather than sportsmen themselves, although, and these names may mean nothing to you, but the people like Len Hutton and Dennis Compton in cricket and Stanley Matthews in football were the heroes of the 50s. But my heroes were broadcasters like John Arlott, who became the voice of cricket around the world. He was an absolutely wonderful broadcaster. And I sought to emulate him, really. I always say you should never seek to imitate anybody because that would be wrong. You are your own personality. But you should seek to emulate and to be as good as people like Richie Benaud, who was one of the greatest commentators of all time in cricket, and great football commentators as well. And it's been my joy to come to India and to talk with and to meet so many good commentators, but young and old, who've enjoyed the same profession as me. So, as I say, I wake up every day being thankful for earning a living from something that you enjoy. I've said to my own two sons, whatever you do, get a job that you enjoy, not one that simply pays money, one that you really look forward to going to every day. And that's what they've done.
Exactly, sir. And personally, even for me, I have grown up listening to your voice, obviously, and Peter Drury, John Champion, Jim Beglin. It's been such a great joy to watch football along with them. It's that extra bit of buzz that you get when you hear, okay, Peter Drury and Jim Beglin are commentating. You are there in the ISL, that extra buzz which we get in cricket, the likes of Gavaskar, and for us, obviously, Ravi Shastri. So there were a lot of people who, for us, gave us that extra bit of buzz when we were growing up. And so now you've been here for such a long time. So you said 1959 is the first time you were really into broadcasting. And there has been a lot of change in broadcasting, especially now with the inventing of technology. There is always something new that the viewer wants to see, and the fans love to see. And there is a lot of change that has happened over the years. and how different it is now since you started back in BBC with football, and how different is it now?
Oh, absolutely massive. And can I just add something before I answer your question there? That the common denominator of the names you mentioned there, Peter Drury, Jim Beglin, they are lovely chaps. They're really nice people away from the screen. You hear them as commentators. But I think it's born of the fact that we all enjoy our job so much. We're so happy to be doing it. It makes you nice people pleasant to talk to because you're so happy about what you're doing. And you couldn't have mentioned a nicer man there than Peter Drury. And Jim Beglin I've worked with as well. To answer your question, the biggest change really has been brought about by the internet. Because in my early days, if you went to a football match, say I was doing Leeds United versus Liverpool here, I would be able to ring the two managers the day before the game and have a personal chat with them, then get to the ground and have a cup of coffee with them as well, and a sandwich maybe. And it was very intimate in those days. Now there is, well, no intimacy almost. You have a press conference at which the manager appears the day before, and you have a press conference maybe with one player. You never get to speak individually to either of those people. So that has changed, and the technology has changed massively as well. So people, especially in India, I find, with the coverage that we do of the ISL there, they love the sort of statistics that people have enjoyed in America in baseball, for example. So that we're constantly looking at the screen, and I'm referring to who is the fastest player, which player has run the most miles, which player has played the most passes. Now, that sort of information was just not available to you in the old days. You went to a game and you commentated on the 90 minutes on what you saw, basically, and you didn't have any other information on the screen whatsoever. So those two things, I would say, the lack of intimacy now, which I did enjoy in the old days, it's a less personal game. And there's so much of it now. If you think of your Indian cricket team, back in the early 50s, I saw Vinu Mankad, Pankaj Roy, all come to England, and they were gods to me. Kripal Singh, they were names, and here I was seeing them in the flesh. Now they can come and play in county cricket and in 2020s, and you might see them 2 or 3 times a year. Yeah. So there is so much sport now. Sachin Tendulkar was, I live in Yorkshire, as you may know, was our first overseas player. What a delightful person, Sachin Tendulkar. And we've had other great players as well. So those are the biggest changes, I would say, the amount of technology that's involved nowadays and the internet. But sadly, one thing that's had to go is that lack of personal relationship.
Yes, obviously, sir. You mentioned a lot of great players there, and that intimacy along with them would have been such a nice experience to have. But obviously now with technology, people in India, especially as you said, love the statistics, love their numbers, and they love to know who is the fastest player and who is the best player in terms of distance covered, etc. So it's a huge change, and something that you have adapted to brilliantly over the years. And your commentary still has that poetic effect that we really love to hear over the years. And you've commentated in almost 10 World Cups now. And there have been lots of amazing games that you have been a part of, but which is that one World Cup and that one game that you really look back and say, okay, this is the one for me?
Well, it's amazing you should ask me that question, because only this week I contributed to a book which somebody has written about the Brazil team of 1982. You'll probably remember the names. Zico, who became the manager of FC Goa, Socrates, Falcao, Eder. And I had the privilege in 1982, which was my first World Cup for ITV. I'd covered the 78 World Cup in Argentina for the BBC. But in 82, I was handed the responsibility for every Brazil game. I did every Brazil match, partly because they were initially in the same group as Scotland, who I was covering. They were in with Russia and New Zealand as well. And every game was fantastic. And Brazil don't score tap-in goals. Every goal that Eder and Falcao and Zico scored, and Socrates, and the names is the other thing. The names, Brazilian, roll off the tongue. I loved, I can even hear back now, Socrates, Falcao. wonderful, which doesn't happen, with all due respect, to Bulgarian names or Romanian names or Korean names. The Brazilians have, and there's something I said in this book that to me it was as though that team in '82 had been sprinkled with stardust. Every single one of those players was a magnificent player in terms of technique. It was a colourful occasion. The fans were fantastic. You know, the beat of the samba, the drums, everything was captivating about that World Cup. And I was very unprofessional, really, in a way, because when Brazil were beaten by Italy, I could have cried. I didn't. I could, because I so wanted Brazil to win that World Cup. I think it would have been so good for football. They were the best team I've ever seen. And the book is entitled something about the not unluckiest losers, but the best ever losers, or something like that. Good luck to Italy. They were strong enough to win it. And but that, in answering your question, and just adding to that, you've been very kind to say that I still sound as though I'm enthusiastic. And I always say to budding young commentators, treat every match the same way. It's a World Cup final, or it could be Maharashtra versus Karnataka. Treat it with the same respect, because you owe that to the players and you owe that to the teams. So I always prepare just as rigorously for a game in the I League, even, which I've done, as I would for a World Cup final, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to everybody who's listening.
So certainly, some words which you just said right towards the end is something that we ought to live by for us budding commentators in the future, because this is what it is about. It is about the respect that you show every game, and it's the amount of preparation you go through. And the team which you mentioned, the Brazilian team, we were unfortunate that we couldn't see them live. You were, and we've heard a lot of fantastic stories about them from our grandparents and from our dad. So it's been something that I wish I could watch them live, but I can't. So for me to watch the videos of them has been, I think YouTube has really helped, growing up, and now it's great to, know about these people, and it's even great to hear somebody like you talk about them. So it gives that even bit, it gives that even bit more of an excitement for us. It just makes us feel comfortable about them. So you are talking a lot about cricket, and you have obviously been a huge part of cricket as well, and you have commentated in Yorkshire back in the day. So how was that experience? How different was it to commentate on cricket other than football? Because there's a lot of difference in the sports.
Yeah, very, very different indeed. I grew up, in fact, in love with cricket more than football in a way, because extraordinarily, I was born in a street in my own village where there were 3 or 4 people who were involved in county cricket. The captain of Yorkshire lived in the same street, the coach who'd played for England. There was a great player called Jim Laker who once took 19 wickets in a test match for 90 runs against Australia. His auntie taught me shorthand and lived opposite. And another Yorkshire cricketer, Phil Sharp, his auntie lived next door. And I was playing every day of the week. And maybe my eyesight held me back. Maybe I could have gone on to have a career in cricket. But covering it, there's so much time to think. It's like I do golf commentary as well. So much more time to tell stories and to think about the overall pattern of the game than there is about football. When you're doing football commentary, you have to be very reactive. You have to be very spontaneous in everything that you say. In cricket, you've time to assess what you're going to say first. And again, statistics are a massive part of it. I thought if I've been today to watch Yorkshire play Leicestershire, and Yorkshire have a fast bowler called Ben Code at the moment. And at one stage, his match figures were something like 32 overs in the match and 9 for 46, which is absolutely fantastic, And I once was in India, in Delhi, and I have to say, I say this with a smile on my face, I think I saw the worst day's play in the history of Test cricket. India won, you'll be glad to know. They were playing South Africa in Delhi. It's only about 4 years ago. And Hashish Amla and A.B. de Villiers were trying to save the game. And Ashwin and Jadeja were bowling and bowled something like 100 overs between them with 90 maidens. And I saw about 15 runs scored in 5 hours, which was absolutely like pulling teeth. As it happened, after I left to get my flight home that night, de Villiers, I think it was, got out. Amla followed soon afterwards, and they wiped up the tail. And I never saw those wickets. But I've always loved my cricket. I love Test match cricket. It's such a great technical experience 2020 is obviously different. I like the 50 over game as well. But yes, I was born into cricket, but to commentate it is very different indeed. And of course, the most infuriating thing is when you get rain delays and, you know, you have to go back to the studio and, oh, dearie me, you go through every ball that's worth analysing throughout the entire day, but thoroughly enjoyable. And again, working with great people. You know, we mentioned Richie Benno earlier. And here, you know, in England, we have a very good commentator called David Lloyd, who's a bundle of laughs. Yeah, once scored a double century against India. And again, it attracts good people. You know, nice people work in the industry. And I'm fascinated listening to all these different commentators with all their styles.
Yes, and you know, I'm a little glad to say this, but you know, I also shared a little bit of cricket enthusiasm when I was growing up, and you know, it eventually football took over, and as a growing sport in India, and you know, I just got even more into football. So even I can say that I can share that small bit of this all small bit of moment with you that I also had a similar similar start in a way. But yeah, I think you mentioned the likes of David Lloyd, Bumble, who we hear such a lot in because we get a Sky Sports coverage here in India for cricket, and you know we've been hearing a lot of him, especially now in the England West Indies series and the England Pakistan series, and it's such a delight to hear him. And you know it is just fantastic. As you said, you know there is you get a lot of time to think, but you know you still have to say the right words. And to your credit, you've always done that for a long time. And you know as I've said, like I guess a million times now, that you know it's been a delight to hear you over the years. And you know I can't stop smiling because you have been such a great influence on everyone, especially here in India. So
Well,
I was
can
just
I just add? Can I just add in there, by the way,
yeah
talking about Bumble, that he possesses something that not many commentators do have, and something that I think is way up there in the important factors of how to do the job. He says it with a laugh. He says it with a smile on his face. He commentates with humour. And I think
yeah
humour is so important. Sometimes we can overemphasise the importance of sport. Yes, of course it's important, you know. Most important of unimportant things, as somebody once said. But I think it's so important to viewers who are maybe not into the statistical side of it or the technical side of it, to keep them occupied. If you show a bit of humour, if you can have a laugh along the way, I just think that's a wonderful injection into the commentary, and nobody does it better than Bumble.
yeah I couldn't even argue on that. He's just a fantastic commentator in that respects. And you know coming to you know something that I really wanted to talk to you about is that over the years you have seen a lot of events unfold that you would rather you know not be a part of, like the tragic events of 85 in Bradford, the incident at Brussels, the Hillsborough disaster. And as a commentator you would want to get out of that situation when it's happening, but you cannot. Maybe that is your the job which you have to do doesn't really allow you to get out of it, but it is still happening right in front of your eyes, and it is panic stricken, but you still have to give out something to the viewers that calms them down. So how do you actually go through that process? I mean, it must be absolutely torrid, but you know you still go through it.
Yes, I still say that was the worst day of my life, May the 11th, 1985. No commentator ever feels he's going to be thrust into a major international story like that for the wrong reasons. I'd gone to watch a football match, not to know that people were never going to go home from it. 56 people died. I was really grateful on the day for the training I'd had. I referred earlier to the 7 years I'd had on a weekly newspaper, the 4 years I'd had on a daily newspaper, the years I'd had in local radio and national radio. And I think all that goes through your mind at the time is not to become hysterical, to try to be factual. And because the pictures were so dramatic and so graphic and so horrible, I knew I didn't have to say too much to over elaborate, because the pictures were telling the story for the story itself. So, but you were grateful at the time, I think, to know that you were a professional who could cope with it and just take instruction in your ears as well. The director encouraged me to keep talking for as long as I could. And when he felt it was right for me to stop and I had to go down onto the pitch to interview people, then I did so. I hadn't a clue how long I was talking for. And all that you think in your mind is, don't say anything stupid or anything that is going to upset somebody. Fortunately, you couldn't identify anybody who was out on the pitch at the time, even though I did know many of the people in the crowd, because the incident happened in my own city. I was born in the city of Bradford, so I did know many of the people there. But yeah, I think that the overriding factor was not to become hysterical. It would have been quite easy to become hysterical. And I think it was likened, the commentary, to the story of the Hindenburg, which was the airship which caught fire. And you just try to keep as calm as possible and to try and find the right words. But again, pauses say everything. And sometimes commentaries are better having fewer words. They have the most impact when you say very little, which is what I'm trying to get across to you now, that the pictures were telling the story. So anything I said to embellish those pictures had to be meaningful. And hopefully I did that.
Yes, sir. I mean, that is one of the experiences which we hope that it doesn't have to go through, anybody doesn't have to go through. But then you still have to keep a lot of your calm and, keep your mind in the right place. And you've done that to your credit, and it's really great to, hear what we could do in such situations. And unfortunately, those events did happen. So we just hope that it doesn't happen again in the future. And and if in that bad situation you actually turn into such a situation, then you just need to keep yourself calm. It's easier said than done, but as you said, it's all about your right frame of mind and the words which need to be impactful, and it needs to be as crisp as possible. I think that is one of the most important things. And coming to India, because you've been here in the ISL for a long time, and it's when we started watching ISL, it was your voice that really captured our imagination. And Indian football is something that you have loved. We have talked a lot about Indian football and ISL commentary. Obviously, in India, the culture is different, so you react differently of the crowds. And how has your experience been so far with Indian football over all these years, and how do you look at the future in India?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I first came over to cover the I-League for a company called Z Sports, I'm sure you know very well, and thoroughly enjoyed it. There were some extraordinary matches and some extraordinary situations. I remember being down in Kerala where the heavens opened and the pitch was swamped for a couple of days. And they had to transfer the games. I think it was to the State Bank of Travancore Sports Ground, and doing a game there, sitting on the side of the pitch. And I remember a ball coming over from a corner, and everybody went up for the header, and the ball never came down. It had landed in the branches of a tree. Now we've come a long way since then, I can assure you. So when I've commentated on every season of ISL, look at this, by the way. I've got my book here. Okay. I've kept a book on every season of ISL with every club, every player. So I can go back to Fikru and the opening game with ATK, which they won by 3-0, and people like Luis Garcia. What a nice man he was as well. And all the great names, the Del Pieros and the Anelkas and the Zicos and Roberto Carloses, right through to last season. And what I would like to get across to you today is the massive improvement shown by the Indian players. I've never forgotten, and I've related to this, Ishfaq Ahmed once telling me that one of the problems in that early season was that the Indian players were so overawed by the presence in training and on the pitch of those great names. They suddenly found themselves playing against Del Piero, that they were very withdrawn, and it was their nature to be so as well. Now, oh, wow, the attitude and the character and the characteristics of the Indian players is changed so much. They can take the game by the scruff of the neck, and some of the international stars are looking up to them almost. It really has been a terrific transformation. I look at somebody like Anirudh Thapa at Chennai. I know his new manager has said he wants him to sort of talk a bit more and impose himself. He's got fantastic ability. And there are many more. There are players with Jackie Chandler. I mean, there are players with a lot of ability there in India now. And I really do hope that the idea of ISL, which was to boost India's standings in the world rankings, is going to have, well, it has had an impact already, but I'd love to see them get into the top 50 sort of thing. That should be the next target. But it's been absolutely brilliant, and I've loved every minute of going to all the different stadiums in Pune and Chennai and Guwahati, and everybody's so welcoming, and it's been wonderful to see the evolvement so far. Long may that continue.
Yes, sir. And our Indian football team captain Sunil Chhetri probably the standing figure of Indian football right now. His attitude, the way he plays the game, the amount of connection that he has towards the fans and towards football, it's just simply fantastic. And for me also personally, I've been following Mumbai City FC since the very first season, being from Mumbai, and the development that we have seen in players, especially in Mumbai, with the likes of Subhashi, Samrinder, and it's been absolutely brilliant to watch that these players have now become household names. People look up to these players and say, okay, these are going to be international standard players. The likes of Brandon from Goa, you really look up to him and you say,
Mm.
oh, he's going to be a special player in the future. The likes of JJ. So it is something that Indian football over the years has learned how to dream. They have learned how to live their dream, and they've also learned to make the millions in India dream about World Cup football in India someday. So that is something that we all hope. As you said, top 50 in India, the top 50 rankings for India. We definitely hope that happens sooner rather than later. We've seen a lot of amazing players coming up over the years, so we are definitely hoping for that. And you've
Yeah,
been a part.
I
Yeah.
went to a game at Mumbai myself last year while I was over there. We were playing
Okay.
Jamshedpur and saw Bidyananda score the winning goal a
Yes,
couple
yes,
of
I was
minutes
there. I
from
was
there.
there.
There you go. You see, there's another name for you.
Oh, that was a fantastic game. We were in the West Coast Brigade, and all of us we were just at the last second, just hoping, okay, somebody scores, and then Vidyananda just comes in and smashes the winner. That was one of the most unreal footballing moments that I've had. Watching live right in front of me. I think it was what it showed what Indian football has become now. It is exciting for everyone. You can see that development coming through over the years. So I think coming to European football, it is going to be a lot different, especially than the football that is played at Europe, because the quality, even after the years of development, is not as a high, and the game is not yet as fast paced as in Europe. So there is a difference in style in which you will have to commentate towards an ISL game than what you would probably do for the Premier League game or a Champions League game, or even for that matter Scottish game. So there will be a huge difference. So how do you actually look at it and how do you tackle that?
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. And of course, the last two seasons, we've also done all our commentaries from a studio in Mumbai. We've not actually been in the stadium, which is a drawback for me. I much prefer to be on site every single time because you can capture the flavour of the evening and get to talk to the players and the managers. But needs must. It's like at the moment with the lockdown, and so many commentaries being done off tube. The thing I would say about the ISL and our commentary and the difference in the commentary, the first thing is that because of the system which dictates that you have to have 6 Indian players on the pitch
Yes.
at any one time and 5 foreigners, we tend to try and talk about the emergence of those Indian players more than we would normally. We put the emphasis on people like Bidyananda and the impact that these youngsters are having, and Anirudh Thapa, where you wouldn't normally do that. You wouldn't normally single out, if I can put it that way, five young players in a team. You would talk about the team performance, but we are looking to concentrate on some of those younger players and the improvement that they have shown and the impact that they're having within the team framework. And that is exclusive to ISL, really. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. So that is one thing. And the character that they're showing and developing. And then the other thing would be the statistical side, because as I say, you in India do like these statistics. And so we are trying to satisfy that demand with all these different injections during the commentary about how far people are run and the crosses and goals from previous matches. We don't play goals from previous matches into commentaries in the Champions League.
Yes.
But in India, we do. We might say, well, this is the third time Mumbai City have scored from across from the right-hand side, delivered by whoever. Machado has put it away. These are the sort of things that are different about ISL. It's good. When it started, we were a little bit sceptical. One or two of us old hags from Europe, oh God, there's too many statistics here. But gradually, we've got used to doing it, and we try to be accepting of it as something that is a little bit different. The one last year was sort of involvement in a goal, the assists plus goals. We have a little bit of a joke amongst ourselves about it, but it is different and it is exclusive to the ISL.
Yes, sir. And the ISL, as you said, it has a different demand. The Indian people like a lot of numbers and statistics. It is almost like when we friends sit around and we talk about the numbers and statistics, almost like a competition. And we derive those numbers from, from your commentary, from what is shown on the television, from what is there on internet. So, that is the kind of culture that is there, which is why this desire for numbers is there in India. And for the broadcasters, it's such a brilliant thing for us that we actually get them during the game, which is really fantastic for all of us. And so,
Yeah, I mean, we even go to the extent now of telling you how many saves a goalkeeper has made, and we have statisticians working for us who are brilliant, and they come up with these facts for us. So when a penalty is coming up, and it might be something that we've missed in our research, me as the commentator and Russell Osman say as the co-commentator, or Paul Macefield, that we'll suddenly get this statistic on screen. He's saved 3 of the last 4 penalties, or that somebody has only missed once in his entire career. Oh, that's fantastic, because that does enhance the product.
exactly, sir. And how is I mean, you're in lockdown right now, but the coronavirus is slowly, there are signs now that we are getting better towards it. So there is a lot of football activity that is happening globally over the future. When the ISL is going to come back, it's going to happen in Goa. So what are your future plans and any upcoming assignments that you're really looking forward to?
Well, that is the biggest one really for me. I've missed out this year on Copa America. I should have been in Colombia for that, and I missed out on Olympic Games. I should have been in Tokyo. So I'm now looking forward to ISL starting again in November. Where I will be is a matter of conjecture. I don't think the plans are finalised as yet anyway.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, I will be in Goa. I mean, what nicer place to be. So long as I'm involved, I'll be happy, because I so much enjoy it. I think I've been to India 26 times now. You wouldn't know this, but I had my silver wedding. My wife and myself had our silver wedding doing the golden triangle of Delhi and Jaipur and Agra.
Wow.
So I do love coming to your country, and that's not just me saying that. Life is so vibrant and colourful and different in India to our way of life here in England, and because I've been so many times, I feel like I'm one of you, if I can put it that way, almost.
Yes,
I've got
definitely.
so many good friends in India. And it's a thoroughly enjoyable experience. Yeah, we have our frustrations, as you would anywhere in the world. Traffic being one of them. That's a surprise for you.
Yeah.
Stuck in traffic jams in Kolkata or Mumbai or wherever. But the actual product is what we are there for. And that is what we enjoy so much, which is why I loved going to the stadiums. I've probably done about 100 games in Goa. And there's nothing like a match day experience in somewhere like Goa or Chennai. I was in Chennai when they played that game against Mumbai, in the pouring rain, and there were pools of
Yeah.
water all over the pitch, and we were stranded in our hotel for 2 days. But these are fantastic stories to tell to the folks back home when we come back to England. And I do extol the virtues of the Indian Super League to everybody wherever I go. I said the atmosphere is fantastic, and the standard of football is good, and you would love it, because people honestly abroad don't understand or don't really know about how good ISL is. I think it's the 4th biggest league in the world now in
Yeah.
terms of spectators and the viewership. So no, it's absolutely thoroughly enjoyable, every single second of it.
Yes, sir. Definitely. I mean, the ISL has really done brilliantly over the years, and we have been delighted to have you all this while to commentate on the ISL. It's only made our experience of the ISL even better. And obviously, listening to you over all these years, it has been an absolute pleasure. I can't stop saying that, you have been one of those fantastic voices over the years. I truly admire the way you go about the business. It's fantastic. And I would just like to thank you for coming and talking to us, because this has been probably one of the most amazing conversations I've had with someone in this field, and someone who I've really looked up to. So I'm delighted, and I'm proud to say that I was a part of this conversation. And thank you so much, sir, for coming to the Sports Toy and having a chat with us.
Well, it's been absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for asking nice questions, good questions, important, things for me very easy to answer in many ways. But I always say to everybody when I go to India and when I come home, I always say how respectful the people are there, how friendly they are, and how much I look forward to the next one, just like my next football match. So, no, thank you as well. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you to all our viewers for tuning in to Off the Pitch. This is a fantastic show from us at the Sports Doyen, and we look forward to even further exciting episodes in the future. Thank you to Mr. John Helm, and thank you for all our viewers joining us today.
Shukriya.